Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and is by user FluffyHalfLe767. Am I the a-hole for being mad that my husband thinks I tricked him with our child's birth certificate? I want to give some backstory to explain where I'm coming from and why this situation is so hurtful for me. My husband and I come from similar backgrounds. Our families were paycheck to paycheck and not many went to college. We both have degrees and make significantly more than the rest of our respective families. When we got married, I was already a homeowner of a small house and a car. My husband, however, had a lot of debt and his credit was trash. It wasn't his fault. He had significant student loans and had frequently had to help his family members with money. He also has ADHD and had mishandled some bills. I was understanding of his situation, but I was also anxious to help him get debt-free so we can have kids without such burdens over us. He was making $80,000 and I was making $100,000. He moved in with me and we split expenses 50-50, except that he didn't have to pay any rent. I fully covered the mortgage and home insurance since he's not on the deed, and I also paid extra into his debt so he can pay it off early. Also, his car loan is in my name and I cover half of that. Anyway, I do IT technical support and I got the opportunity to take a job that required 50% travel but paid a lot more. We, together, decided that I'd do this job for a few years to significantly shore up our savings and pay off a good portion of the debt. I did this job for a little over 2 years till I got pregnant and then took a lower paying job, $120,000 now, which doesn't require travel. The travel job paid more, but it was so hard on me. I was traveling to the back ends of small towns where the big warehouses and data centers are located, and the job is physically demanding. Pulling cables, moving equipment, working in very cold conditions. I was miserable in this job and ended up with some back problems, but it was a sacrifice for our family. The problem started when I was 8 months pregnant. My husband asked for a paternity test. It came out of nowhere, and I asked him if he didn't trust me, and he said he did, but because I did so much travel, he just needed some assurance for his peace of mind. He said his family and friends have asked him how he could be so sure of this pregnancy when I have been out of our home for so many nights. It really broke my heart that I did so much for this man and didn't try to protect my assets or my money, and he treats me like this. I got very hormonal and cried about it, so he stopped pressuring me then. Now, our son is 3 months old and he's back at it again. He's put his foot down that I need to have a paternity test done and he won't sign the birth certificate otherwise. I told him his name is already on there because we are married and I did the paperwork before they discharged us at the hospital. He didn't realize that would be the case and is furious at me, thinking that I tricked him. So here I am, stuck married to a man who not only doesn't love me or trust me, but is an idiot. His family is also calling me and pressuring me to let him do the test. My family is offended on my behalf, but some mutual friends are saying a test is not a big deal. But it is such a slap in the face after all I've done for him. Am I wrong for how I'm feeling? Well, in my opinion, no, you are not wrong for how you're feeling. You asked your husband if he doesn't trust you, and he says he does, but he still needs this test for reassurance. And my only takeaway from saying that, but then saying the other thing, is that he doesn't really trust you. Now, of course, as many have already suggested, this would not be a problem if DNA tests were mandatory at birth, which I agree with. But that's not your reality, OP. So the way I see it, you can either choose to remain in the marriage and try to work for it, or just end it here and move on with your life and your child. Personally, I think I'd want a break and move on, but if you do choose to stay in the marriage and try to work on it, I would say, sure, I'll do the DNA test, but then we go to marriage counseling and you sign a postnup. I'm not an expert in financial or marriage law, but I would assume that any money that you've already put into the marriage is already gone and you can't get back, but you can still cover your future in case he pulls another crappy stunt like this one. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What decision would you make? Try to work on the marriage or move on? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Dolphin Oni says, not the a-hole. How about you tell him that you'll get the paternity test, but in exchange you want him to sign a postnup that protects your assets and finances so he's not entitled to have in the event of a divorce. I fear that this isn't the end and he's only going to get worse. For example, he may get proof that he's the father, but he may not let go of the idea that you may have cheated while traveling and he'll continue to baselessly accuse you. And OP responds, this is a really good idea. I'm going to look into this more. Thank you. Sweet Interview 5620 says, not the a-hole. Frankly, I would get the paternity test done, but go see a lawyer first and get your finances in order. I would also try and make sure your contributions to his debts up until now are classed as his share of assets. If that's possible, so you don't have to pay anything further to him, but I don't know how these things work. Get the divorce papers sitting ready, and the moment you give the paternity results, hand him the divorce papers also. Then tell him he needs to pack a bag and go live with his parents, that the house is solely in your name and you will have the rest of his stuff packed up for him, that from now on the only contact you will have with him will be regarding your baby, that all visits have to be pre-agreed by you or you will not open the door to him. He clearly does not trust you or fully love you to demand this, or could he have any respect for you? Without trust, respect, and love, there can be no marriage. His actions have made sure you can no longer trust him, and you must certainly have lost the last bit of respect for him. Cut your losses and get a good lawyer. Find one that's known to be an attack dog with good record of wins. Since you financially supported your ex for most of the marriage and paid off his debts for him whilst he paid the bare minimum towards the household, see if you can use that to your favor. Refuse to let him have any access or award to your pension. Oh, and since he's so sure you cheated, investigate. It's very common when people become suspicious that they have been cheating themselves. And OP responds, I don't want to divorce him. I still love him, but I am starting to see that my trust in him has been misplaced. I really can't imagine him cheating on me, but I didn't imagine him doubting me like this either. Nelly Silverleaf says, get the test, so when you divorce, he won't be able to quibble about owing child support. And Abject Director 7626 says, not the a-hole. Why hasn't he already paid to have the test himself? He's that lazy and incompetent, and that's your fault somehow? I'd also tell him he gets to pay 100% of his car loan, because clearly you need to be saving money for security. And OP responds, when he first brought it up, I was 8 months pregnant, so need my participation for the test. Now, the baby is always attached to me, so maybe he didn't think he could do it without my noticing. He could have waited a year or so, but I guess patience for my sake is too much to ask. Additional information from OP's comments. Our relationship was supposed to be built on trust, and that's why I took a lot of financial risks for him. If he had set out at the beginning saying his trust is conditional, then okay, I wouldn't have been surprised by this. But he is okay with me paying so much for him and just trusting that he won't cheat on me or divorce me and leave me exploited, but he doesn't have to trust me in turn? It's the same if you say something like, let's keep our finances separate because I don't trust you fully. Then you do that while you are both in a financially stable situation or before you get married. You don't stomp that on your partner right when they get unemployed or get sick. He didn't tell me he wanted the test before I got pregnant. He waited till I was at my most vulnerable with a baby already here to throw this at me. That is manipulative. Also, his family has been a problem for us. One of the major dings on his credit report is because he co-signed a used car loan for his brother, who then flaked on making payments because it got too expensive to maintain that car. He helps out with his parents' medical bills and phone bills regularly, and also pitches in when they run short on money for other bills. I don't stop him from that, but we've had arguments about him contributing for parties or vacations for them. Honestly, I saw him as a kind man who worked hard and took care of his family. I expected him to show the same loyalty to me since I'm now his family. I thought I was doing my part, helping him out where he was vulnerable, and in turn, I thought I'd have his support. I am outraged and pissed. I am sitting here still recovering from childbirth with a tiny baby to take care of, and there are many people telling me that I am overreacting, and that's why I am here asking if I'm the one who's wrong. So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and many of them suggesting that OP should get divorced, but apparently that's not something that she's ready for. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. In my previous post here, I asked about how to deal with my husband wanting a paternity test. We did the test and got the expected results. He wanted to get one that has legal validity, not a home test. It was a lot more expensive and he paid for it. We had to use the agency to swap samples and maintain a chain of custody. I was surprised and bothered that he had this planned, but he covered the high price and it'd be in my interest to have a clear, indisputable legal trail, so we went and did that. He's been over the moon happy since I agreed to do this, and I resent his happiness. He got the STI panel done and that was clean too. He was surprised by my request, but didn't argue about it. He said it's just a test, no big deal. He was a lot more weirded out about a postnup and flat out refused to cooperate there. I gave up on that because I consulted a lawyer and I can't get much from that anyway. Whatever I have spent on him and his debt is gone, and I can't expect anything back, and we are in a community property state. We argued a lot about separating finances, with him accusing me of trying to control him using money. He pointed out that we were a couple of years away from him becoming debt-free, and if I leave it all on him, then it'll take him 5+ years. He still does not understand how his showing a lack of trust in me is comparable. He kept arguing that if he were the one with more money, he'd have spent it on me, and for me to use this now makes me a bad partner. But he came around and agreed to contributing more to bills after seeing how much my family has turned cold towards him. I am close to my family and they have loved him, but this has made them upset at him. My little sister was outright rude to him, which really got to him. He is the middle child and was frequently teased and bullied by his siblings. My sister was the only relative who loved him like an older brother and doted on him. My words and arguments didn't move him, but he got upset about her icing him out. So now he'll be paying for his own car and contributing to insurance and covering his debt by himself. Still, no rent because he simply can't afford it. I wasn't going to ask him to stop supporting his parents, and after all that, there's nothing in his bucket. I wasn't thinking divorce when I wrote the post, and I still don't want it, but I feel like I am falling out of love with this man. Like the scales have fallen from my eyes and all his faults that I had minimized before stand out glaringly. My mother is fully on my side, but she has advised me not to make any quick decisions. I don't know what I'm going to do. He's trying to be helpful and a good partner, but it feels like an act. Well, OP, I'm sorry, but I can't say this is a happy or a positive update. I see this as the beginning of the end. I don't know, maybe I'm a pessimist and a cynic on this one, but I don't see this getting any better. So for now, all I can do is wish you the best in the future, OP. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user I don't wanna know. Am I the a-hole for calling my best friend a shallow bitch? I, 19 female, recently started introducing my friends to my boyfriend, 20 male, of now 3 months. He's a super sweet guy. He buys me flowers and apologizes for even yanking my hair even the slightest bit while playing with it, and so many other things. Overall, my friends and family love him. All of the feedback I've gotten on him is that he's sweet and seems good for me. I genuinely love him and care about him a lot. The only person who seems to have a problem with him though is my friend, 17 female, who I've known for about 5 years now. It was my birthday recently, and I deliberately made sure she was the last of my friends to meet him until the day of. She's a very outspoken and confrontational type of person and will tell people exactly what she feels. While I'm neither of those things, my family always jokingly called her my emotionally support dog. She's been a great friend and has stood up for me countless times and is pretty ride or die. But lately, we've been on rocky terms for the exact reason I wanted to wait to introduce her to him. She absolutely despises him and is not afraid to tell me so. All of her reasons mostly have to do with his appearance not fitting her taste. He has longer hair and a beard, and her favorite insult is to call him a roach or a homeless man, even though it's well kept. She doesn't say it to his face, surprisingly, but I think that's because I've begged her enough to not do that. She's continued to insult him to my face every time I saw her after that and brought him up. It wasn't just a one-off comment, it was constant. She would go on tangents in the middle of a normal conversation about something completely unrelated. She started trying to guilt trip me into leaving my apartment with her every time he was there, after she showed up unannounced. She's always saying things like, "You hate me, you never want to spend time with me anymore," and things like that. It all boiled down to me finally exploding on her last night after she sent me a series of texts about why I should break up with him. I was so upset and so fed up with her being so mean to him for no real reason that I sent her a very long paragraph. I told her she was being a bitch. I called her shallow and immature and even criticized her own love life, which is filled with crappy boyfriends that I've supported her through. At the time, it felt good to get it off my chest, especially with how weird and rude she's been acting, but now I just feel guilty. All she said in return was fake ass F, which doesn't feel too good. I hate fighting with my friend and I feel I went a bit too far, but I'm also not gonna leave him just because she doesn't find him attractive. Well, Pete, no, I don't think you're the a-hole. I can understand your frustration. There's a reason why you didn't want to introduce her until it was absolutely unavoidable. Sure, you can have your reservations about somebody's partner, and if you are asked for your opinion, you say your piece once, and that's where it stops. After that, it's just rude and obnoxious. She's not acting as a friend, OP, and if I were you, I would put this friendship on ice for a while until she can act more maturely about your boyfriend. And what is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Any Dog says, "God, I'm only 24, but that mindset you all have feels like it was a lifetime ago. I'm getting old already." Not the a-hole. Your friend is outspoken because she is immature. People aren't born an a-hole, they choose to become one. Gundi Galois says, "Not the a-hole. She is indeed acting shallow. I'm not sure why she thinks she has a right to insult his appearance, and you told her to stop multiple times. At some point, you are at your wit's end. She's pretty obviously jealous and is handling it poorly. In my opinion, you should tell her that you have a boundary, that she should not insult your boyfriend, and if she violates it again, you can no longer be friends. If she does violate your boundaries, stick with that. You can't let yourself be treated like this." And Black Flash 3003 says, "Not the a-hole. It seems to me she is bent on making you break up with a good guy that you have a good relationship with. Would that be the actions of a true friend? No matter her reasoning, her take on your relationship based on how attractive your boyfriend is to her is extremely shady. Maybe she is jealous that her love life is crappy and yours is not and wants it to be the same. She also sounds very invasive and pushy. You don't owe her to break up with the guy." So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and that she maybe needs to ditch the friend. So now let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. Today, me and her met up after I messaged her and told her I wanted to talk. We sat down over lunch and I apologized for being rude and calling her a shallow bitch. I also told her that I was also not going to put up with her behavior towards both me and my boyfriend anymore. After talking to a few older and wiser people and reading lots of insightful comments, I have realized she is not the friend I thought she was, and I have realized that some of her behaviors and actions over the years have been a bit manipulative. The word sounds a bit too harsh. So I have broken contact with her for now. I told her I am willing to make amends and continue being her friend, but I cannot be in her life until she grows up a bit and learns what she did was not right either. She didn't say much during our meet, nor did she express much in her face either, so I'm not sure how she's feeling or where she will go from there. Thank you all for your advice. Well, OP, you did the right thing. You are in no longer contact with a bad friend, and if she reacts or not, and if she thinks about it or not, that's her problem and not yours. You just move on and enjoy your relationship. Thanks so much for sharing, OP, and take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.